The galaxy was quiet that night, or as quiet as it could ever be. On the edge of the Orion Arm, the Lorian homeworld was burning. Their cities, once full of light and peace, were now nothing but smoking ruins. The skies above glowed red from orbital fires. Their enemies, the Karn Dominion, had come without warning, like monsters from the old tales, brutal, merciless, unstoppable. In a hidden underground base, Elder Sira stood before the ancient Cum's terminal. Her hands trembled as she reached for the activation crystal. The signal they were about to send hadn't been used in thousands of years. It wasn't meant for nearby allies or nearby sectors. No, this signal was old, deeper, wilder. It reached across forgotten channels into the deep void. Last hope, Sira whispered to herself. May the stars hear us. Then she activated it. A pulse rippled through the void. One signal, one desperate cry. It didn't reach the Galactic Council. It had already turned their backs. It didn't reach the old allies. They were too afraid of the Karn. It reached Earth. The signal crossed the black barrier surrounding Sol System, a region marked by every star map as forbidden. The Deathworld. No one dared to go near, and yet the signal was answered, deep under the surface of a long dead. Earth ancient machines woke. Red lights blinked in dark bunkers. Satellites long thought dead turned their eyes to the stars. And then, without a sound, the machines began to move. Earth did not ask questions. Earth did not send diplomats. Earth launched. Warships, massive ones, silent, black as the void, covered in old armor, scarred from wars no one remembered. The ships had no names, no markings. Just one signal cold and final broadcasted across the stars. Earth has heard. Stand aside. In the nearby sector, a Karn scout fleet was patrolling. They detected movement from the Sol System. At first they laughed. Who dares move from the graveyard? Their captain mocked. But the laughter didn't last. The Karn scout ship was the first to vanish. No explosion, no distress call. Just silence. The second ship went dark 3 minutes later, and the third. In less than 20 minutes, the entire patrol fleet was gone. Panic spread through Karn High Command. Eyes turned toward Earth. But even their long-range scans failed to read what was coming, because what came wasn't a fleet, it was judgment. From the dark side of Earth's moon, a formation of warships emerged. They moved in complete silence. Their engines were not visible. Their weapons were offline. But the stars behind them dimmed. One of the alien observers watching from afar whispered, "That's not a fleet. That's a storm." Within the hour, the first human vessel entered Lorian space. It didn't slow down. It didn't respond to hails. It only broadcasted coordinates, precise ones, marking every known Karn base, supply line, and capital ship. Then, it unleashed fire. Blue-white beams sliced through Karn cruisers like paper. Railguns fired projectiles faster than light, each hit turning capital ships into drifting metal dust. There were no words, no warning, only precision, only fury. The Lorian watched, stunned. They had hoped for help, maybe supplies, maybe shelter. What they got was Earth. The Deathworlders had answered the call, and as the burning wreckage of Karn ships filled their skies, the Lorian realized something. When humanity returns from the dark, it doesn't come to talk. It comes to end things. The message was clear across the stars now. Every race, every empire, every smug counselor that once ignored Earth now stared in silence, because Earth had awakened, and this was just the beginning. The Karn Dominion was not used to losing. For centuries, they had ruled the outer galaxies with fear and fire. Entire civilizations had bowed before their fleets. Entire sectors had been turned to ash simply because a Karn warlord wanted a new trophy. But now, everything was changing. Dung, in the Lorian sector, their strongest forward base fort, Talver, had just gone dark. No distress signal. No ball. No ball. That report Just silence. A whole battle moon, equipped with planetary shields, 30 cruisers, and over 1 million Karn warriors, gone in less than 10 minutes. The news hit the Karn High Command like a hammer. In the war chamber aboard the Dominion flagship Krextal, Supreme Commander Valgorn stood frozen, watching the final transmission on repeat. There was no battle, no warning. It's only a dark shape approaching the base, like a shadow across the stars. Then lights blinked out, shields collapsed, and silence followed. What? What are we fighting? Valgorn growled. No one answered, because no one knew. He had seen the message. Everyone had. Earth has heard. Stand aside. But the Karn had dismissed Earth as a ghost world. Deathworld no one returned from. A myth told by old wanderers and deep space pirates. Surely the humans were long gone, or too broken to rise again. But that myth was now cutting through their fleets like a blade. Back in Lorien territory, the sky had changed. Once lit with the golden shimmer of Karn battleships, it now burned with the blue glow of human war engines. Massive ships hovered above the ruined cities, not as conquerors, but as silent guardians. They didn't land. They didn't speak. They only waited. Inside the Lorien Council bunker, the survivors watched the sky with wide eyes. Elder Sira was the first to speak. They didn't just come to help us, she said quietly. They came to erase the threat. Her words sent chills down the spines of every leader in the room. The humans hadn't asked for thanks. They hadn't demanded payment. They hadn't even introduced themselves. They were acting with cold, surgical precision, taking down Karn outposts, cutting supply lines, destroying communications, and they were doing it fast. Too fast. Within just 1 day, 4 Karn-controlled planets fell silent. Entire fleets were shattered. Warlords who had ruled for generations were reduced to nothing. Still, the humans said nothing. The only sound they made was the humming of their massive warships. It was enough. Far away, in the Galactic Council chambers, panic had begun to spread. The Varn emissary stood up, slamming a data tablet on the table. You ignored Earth. We all did. And now look. Screens showed human warships moving across star maps like wildfire. The Council debated sending an envoy, opening communication, calling for peace, but none dared to approach Earth's ships. They had seen what happened to those who got in the way. The humans were not launching a war. They were launching an execution. And it was working. Even species who once served the Karn began to defect. And entire mercenary fleets refused to fight when they saw Earth's black warships. The name Deathworlders no longer meant fear. It meant hope. In terror, because no one knew what Earth would do next. Would they stop after destroying the Karn? Would they vanish again? Or would they turn their eyes to the rest of the galaxy? No one could say, but every empire was now watching, holding its breath, because a Deathworld had answered the call, and it wasn't finished yet. The stars were no longer safe for the Karn. Once proud rulers of dozens of systems, the Karn fleets were now retreating. Not because of diplomacy, not because of fear alone, but because they were being hunted, system by system, planet by planet by something far more terrifying than anything they had ever faced. Earth's warships. These were not ordinary vessels. They moved without warning. They appeared through rifts that didn't match known jump signatures. And when they arrived, there was no negotiation, only destruction. Karn Admiral Zerotal had commanded fleets for over 2 centuries. He had crushed rebellions, wiped out colonies, and led invasions into forbidden systems. But now, aboard his flagship, the Varmalx, he watched in horror as his entire defensive line vanished from his screens. One by one, no explosions, no screams, just silence. Where are they? He barked at his officers, but the sensors showed nothing. No approach vectors, no engine trails, no sign of life. Then, for a moment, the lights flickered. The crew froze. A voice came through the command system. Calm, mechanical, cold. Target. Confirmed. Initiating counterforce. Then the Karn flagship began to crack. From the inside, steel twisted. Gravity surged. The bridge buckled. Admiral Zerotel's final scream was never heard. The ship split into 4 pieces, drifting silently into the void. There was no debris, no radiation signature. No surviving black box, only a single word remained, burned into the wreckage in deep plasma-scorched Earth. Across the galaxy, fear began to spread faster than light. Empires that had once competed for power now stayed quiet. Fleets were recalled. Borders were locked down. Pirate lords and mercenaries erased all traces of any past dealings with the Karn. Because now, being associated with the Karn was a death sentence in the ruined outer colonies of the Lorien sector. Strange things began to happen. People whispered of ships that moved without noise, watching from the clouds. Of tall, armored humans walking the surface, scanning old ruins, retrieving lost data. They didn't speak. They didn't attack, but they were everywhere. 1. Lorien Child looked up at the sky one night and saw a warship floating silently above. The mountains. It's like it's listening, he said to his mother. She didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the stars. It's filled with tears, because she knew what was coming next. The humans weren't just defeating the Karn. They were preparing for something larger. Back on Earth, buried deep beneath Antarctica, the core directive center glowed with light. Ancient A's once sealed away, now processed endless streams of battlefield data. Human commanders sat quietly, studying every movement, every signal from deep space. The mission was not revenge, it was restoration. The Karn threatened one of ours, the commander said quietly, pointing at a signal from the Lorien distress beacon. They fired first. That was their mistake. A younger officer hesitated. Sir, the council might react. They already did nothing. The commander cut him off. They ignored the cries for help. Earth didn't. Let them tremble. Let them remember what a Deathworld really means. Then he looked at the hologram of Earth's fleet, thousands of warships, dreadnoughts, stealth destroyers, and something far larger lurking in the shadows. Ships so massive it had not yet been deployed. But soon it would. And when it did, the galaxy would never forget the name. Humanity. The storm was still building, and Earth had only just begun to answer the call. The council thought it was a mistake. How could Earth, a silent, forgotten Deathworld, respond with such overwhelming power? How could one signal, one cry for help trigger this? But the truth was spreading fast. Across star systems, ancient legends were being spoken again in fear. Not stories of gods or monsters, but of humans. Of a species born from storms, raised in fire, and shaped by a planet that tried to kill them. Every day, and now, they were back. The Deathworlders were awakened. They were angry in the Jaren Quadrant. A planet named Valex burned. Karn troops had occupied it for years, using its mines and slaves without resistance. But on the 3rd day, after the signal was sent, everything changed. The sky opened, and through it came humans, but not like the ones from ancient records. These soldiers wore black armor that shimmered like liquid shadow. Their eyes glowed with soft blue light. Their weapons fired silently, but wherever the beams touched, Karn machines melted, and their soldiers vanished. The Karn base tried to raise its shields too. Late, the human warship hovering above the surface didn't even use its main cannon. Instead, it dropped a silent drone. One small, silver sphere. It touched the shield, and then everything turned white. A flash, and then ... silence. The shield collapsed. The base was gone in its place. Only a crater and a human flag, dark steel. With a symbol of Earth wrapped in fire, no words were spoken. None were needed. Back at the Galactic Council, panic grew. Meetings were called every hour. Races that had not spoken in centuries now argued, shouted, and blamed each other. Earth is breaking the laws of the stars? One ambassador cried. They were silent for 10,000 years. Another screamed. What woke them up? The truth was simple. They heard a cry, and unlike the council, they answered. High above a red dwarf star, human fleet assembled. It wasn't just one ship anymore. Dozens of dreadnoughts, cruisers, and stealth frigates gathered. Their engines were silent, their movements sharp. They didn't drift. They hunted. In the center of the formation was the flagship, the Valkyrie. It was older than any other ship, built before the Council existed, built for a war no one remembered. Inside, Commander Elias stood with his arms crossed, watching the holomap of the galaxy. Another distress signal pulsed. Another system in danger, his second in command. Sarah Vale turned to him. "Shall we respond?" Elias nodded once. "Send the fleet. No diplomacy. No delay. We don't ask questions. We protect," she smiled. "And if the Karn resist?" His voice was cold. "Then we erase their name from the stars." Far away in a dark corner of the galaxy, the last Karn warlords gathered in secret. They were terrified. Planets they once ruled were now silent. Fleets they sent returned, burned or not at all. The humans didn't negotiate. They didn't broadcast threats. They just appeared and destroyed. One Karn leader, older than most, slammed his fist on the table. "We need to beg the Council to stop them." Another growled. "The Council is afraid too," third whispered. "Then what do we do?" The silence stretched, and then a fourth one, barely more than a hatchling, spoke the words that chilled the room. "We run." The others turned. "We run," he repeated. "We leave this part of the galaxy. Now, before the next human fleet finds us." The room stayed quiet, because deep inside, they all knew there was no stopping what had been awakened. Earth had heard the call for help now. Their fleet moved like thunder, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The Karn Empire was dying, not with a scream, not with an explosion, but with silence. One by one, their colonies vanished from star maps. No distress beacons, no survivors. Just emptiness. The cause, a fleet born from Earth. A fleet that moved like shadows and struck like fire. A fleet that answered a single cry for help and brought justice in its purest. Cold as form, in the ruins of Sector Vornis 3, 3 Karn ships floated dead. No energy, no signals. Just drifting metal husks. The Council sent a probe. The footage returned was terrifying. Inside those ships, Karn soldiers were frozen mid-movement, faces twisted in shock, weapons half-raised. They had been stopped in an instant. No fire, no battle, just death. And etched on the bridge wall of the largest ship, scorched in clean plasma, "We protect what you abandon." No name, no symbol. But everyone knew who had written it. Earth, the Deathworlders. On a green moon, orbiting a dying star, refugees had gathered. Dozens of species, hundreds of ships, all escaping Karn rule. They hid under a thick energy field, afraid to broadcast anything. They believed no one would find them but Earth. The humans didn't ask questions, they didn't scan, or wait, or threaten. They arrived. 3 massive ships exited subspace above the moon like ghosts silent. Massive, unstoppable. The refugees panicked. Some tried to run, some dropped shields, and begged for mercy, but the humans didn't fire. Instead, they landed, and from their ships came not warriors, but engineers, medics, supplies, shelter, and one message. Played in every known language of the galaxy: "You are safe now. Earth has heard you." In the Galactic Council's core world, fear had turned into something worse: division. Some members wanted to make peace with Earth. Others wanted to stop them. A few wanted to pretend nothing was happening, but none of it mattered. Because Earth wasn't asking permission, they weren't talking, they were acting, and every second they delayed. Another system changed hands, not through war but through choice. More and more colonies, former Karn slaves. Exiled species, forgotten planets, were switching off their council beacons and raising a new signal. It's the Earth frequency. A signal of safety, a signal of power, a signal of hope. On board the Valkyrie, Earth's flagship, Commander Elias stood before his officers. A new message played. A child's voice crying, begging, double quotes, "Please, my people are dying. No one is coming. We are alone." Elias turned to Sarah Vale. Her face was hard now. She didn't flinch anymore. "We go now," Elias said. But it's across council borders, someone whispered. It will start a war. He looked around the bridge, calm, focused. We're already in a war. We just didn't choose it. He pointed to the stars. They did. In a deep region known as the Black Expanse, a hidden Karn base prepared its final attack. Their scientists had uncovered something, an ancient weapon from before. Earth's silence. Something dangerous. Something forbidden. But before they could activate it, the humans arrived, not from space, from inside, through teleportation gates, through cracks in time. Through methods the council had banned, the humans came from every direction, fast, brutal, merciless, and when the Karn leader activated the weapon, he expected glory. Instead, it turned to dust in his hands. The human standing before him smiled once. No more monsters, she whispered. Not while we stand, and then she ended him. Across the galaxy. A realization began to form. Earth wasn't just sending ships, it was sending a message. You can ignore the weak. You can silence the desperate. You can forget the broken. But someday, they will call, and someone will. Hear, and when Earth hears, the galaxy will shake. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Earth's fleet wasn't just moving. It was spreading fast, wide, and without stopping. Where other empires hesitated, humans pushed forward. Where the council debated, Earth acted, and now, even the ancient powers had taken notice. On the frozen world of Enthal, deep beneath layers of ice, the Valerii watched in silence. They were old. Older than the council. Older than Karn. They had survived 1,000 wars by hiding, watching, never interfering. But now, even they were afraid. Their sensors picked up something strange. Earth's ships were not just traveling faster than light. They were bending space, rewriting the very rules of physics, and their signals carried patterns. Old patterns, ancient codes once used by species long extinct. Impossible, whispered the Valerii elder. Humans were silent for millennia. Where did they learn this? No answer came, only more signals. And one sentence repeated across all channels. Earth remembers. Far away, the Karn High General stood before his burning capital. He had lost 5 sectors, 5, each one taken not by invasion, but by surrender. His slaves, his soldiers, had dropped their weapons and ran the moment. Earth's flag appeared in orbit. No negotiations, no mercy, no resistance, just silence. Then hope. The kind of hope only Deathworlders could bring. And now, Earth's fleet was moving toward the last stronghold, the heart of the Karn military machine. If it fell, the Empire was finished. We must strike back, he screamed. Hit them hard. Use the old weapons. But his commanders hesitated, because even they had heard the stories. The fleet from Earth didn't just kill. They judged. They remembered. And once they came, there was no hiding. On the flagship Valkyrie, Commander Elias stood alone on the observation deck. Before him floated a planet once enslaved by the Karn. Now, free. The people were dancing in the streets, lighting beacons in Earth's honor. But Elias didn't smile. His eyes were on the next target. A dark red world called Zoran 5, the last breeding ground of Karn's Super Dash soldiers. He tapped the screen. Plot. Course, no survivors. Sarah Vale, his second in command, nodded. You think the council will finally wake up? Elias looked at her. They won't have to. We're going to end this before they even open their eyes. He walked away, but behind him, the stars pulsed, as if something ancient was moving again. Meanwhile, in the core of the council's inner chamber, the truth finally hit them. They weren't dealing with a nation. They weren't dealing with a species. They were dealing with a force. Earth had become a legend. A living one, and now it was rewriting the galaxy, one world at a time. The council head spoke softly. Maybe we were wrong. Maybe Earth didn't abandon the galaxy. He looked at the map, where red beacons blinked like fire. Maybe they were, just waiting for the right reason to return. Another voice whispered. And now, The council head didn't answer because the screen lit up. Again, another call for help. Another cry from the shadows, and just beneath it, a single Earth code had already responded, received fleet inbound. At the edge of the galaxy in a region known as the Ghost Belt, a new fleet formed, not made of human ships, but alien ones. Old enemies of Karn, freed, slaves, survivors, and at their lead, a single human vessel, glowing with ancient power. Captain Rail, exiled Sarn warrior, stood beside a human officer. "We fight together now," he asked. The human smiled. "We don't fight alone anymore." And as their ships ignited, ready to jump, one message echoed across the stars. "This is Earth's answer. You cried for help. We brought the storm." The galaxy was on fire, but not with war. With hope, planet after planet, once silent and afraid, now rose with strength. Enslaved worlds tore down the Karn banners. Old cities buried under fear now echoed with cheers. Entire star systems changed. Colors no longer gray with oppression, but blue with freedom, and at the center of it all, the Earth fleet. But Earth wasn't celebrating. Earth was still hunting. Commander Elias stood on the deck of the Valkyrie, staring at the rotating image of ZORRAN-5. It was their next target, the last factory of Karn horror. "Surface scans," he asked. 35 million? Mostly soldiers, clones, and biolabs, Sarah Vale replied. Elias narrowed his eyes. "They'll fight to the last." Sarah leaned closer. "We won't give them a last." Silence filled the room. No one questioned it. Zoran 5 wasn't just another Karn world. It was the birthplace of their darkest technology. Human prisoners had died there long ago, tortured, torn apart, studied like insects. Now Earth had returned. Not to ask questions, but to end everything. The Karn High General stood inside his war chamber. His face was pale, not from fear but from disbelief. They had launched counterattacks. They had sent assassins. They even used forbidden void weapons, but nothing stopped. Earth's fleet, they didn't sleep. They didn't slow down. They didn't talk. They only answered distress signals. And each time, the sky burned. "This is not war," the general whispered. "This is punishment." Behind him, alarms screamed. Zoran 5 had just gone dark, completely. No signals. No survivors. Just a silent, lifeless red sphere where once the Karn bred terror, even the Karn Council fell into chaos. They tried to beg, tried to offer peace, but Earth didn't reply. Because Earth didn't negotiate with monsters. On the edge of the Orion Belt, something new appeared. A gate. Not a human creation. Something older. Something sleeping. And Earth's fleet flew straight toward it. The Council watched in panic. They found the ancient gate. We told them it was forbidden. But it was too late. The gate opened, and Earth's fleet vanished inside. Where were they going? No one knew, until minutes later. A distress signal was picked up from the Zular Expanse, its region. No ship had entered for 10,000 years. A graveyard of fallen empires and Earth. Was there now fighting alone? Why? Because the Karn had one last secret, a hidden fortress. Buried in that cursed place, one final weapon, something ancient, powerful, lost. And Earth wasn't waiting for permission. They were going to destroy it alone if they had to. The message was brief. A human voice, distorted but calm. Final enemy located. Coordinates locked. This ends now. The galaxy watched in silence. No one dared move. No one dared breathe. Because they knew what came next. And they were right. Minutes later, every long-range scanner caught a single flash. A blinding light then. Silence. The Zular fortress was gone. Not damaged, not destroyed, erased. The galaxy didn't cheer. They couldn't. They were too stunned, one alien reporter whispered. What kind of world creates warriors like this? Another answered, not a normal world, a death world. And then came the final message. A transmission sent by Earth, broadcast in every known language. A warning, a promise, and a law. We heard your cry. We answered. To the oppressed, call us. To the slavers, run. Earth is awake now. I thought it was over. After Zular Fortress vanished in a flash of light, after the Deathworld fleet erased the last Karn weapon, the galaxy believed Earth would return home. But Earth and stayed. The humans stayed in space, waiting, watching, listening. The message they had sent was clear. We're not just here for war. We're here to make sure this never happens again. Across the stars, silence spread. The Karn Empire had ruled for 1,000 years. It took Earth only 30 days to tear it all down. The galactic leaders, the noble houses, the merchant, kings, the warlords, they all met in secret. One question burned in their minds. What now? Some wanted to reach out to Earth, offer peace, offer trade. Others whispered darker thoughts. Earth is too strong, too dangerous. If we wait, they'll become gods. But one thing held them back. Fear, because Earth had done something no species ever dared. Not just war, justice. They fought for the broken, the voiceless, the forgotten. They didn't ask for gold. They didn't claim planets. They just answered the cry, and the galaxy couldn't understand that. On the bridge of the Valkyrie, Commander Elias watched the stars shift. The fleet was still at full strength, not one ship lost, not one crew. Remember, buried Darth had learned to fight without losing lives because they had suffered too many in the past. He looked at the fleet's next path in charted space, the Outer Rim, forgotten sectors. Sarah Vale stepped beside him. Another signal came in, another cry, Elias asked. She nodded, this time. It's not from a planet, it's from a ship. Refugees, children, alone. Elias didn't hesitate. Set course. The Deathworld fleet moved like shadows through space. Each time a signal came, they answered. Each time a cry for help was heard, they arrived. And each time, those who caused the pain were erased. It wasn't conquest, it was something. Purer. Earth had become a myth now, a legend whispered in bars, in bunkers, in backwater colonies. Call them once, and your enemies will never rise again. Aliens no longer laughed at Earth's past, they feared Earth's future. One Karn survivor sat alone in a prison cell on a distant moon. He looked up at the stars and trembled. He remembered the day Earth arrived, the silence before the storm, the way their ships blotted out the suns, the cold voice of the AI that gave no warning, and then nothing. Only fire, only fury, he whispered. They were not gods. They were worse. They were humans who had suffered too much, and they swore never again. Back on Earth, the people watched the broadcasts. The children learned about the fallen worlds. The engineers improved the fleets. The veterans trained the next generation not to conquer, but to protect. Because Earth remembered what it felt like to be alone, and now they made sure no one else ever would be. A final message spread across the galaxy. No one knew where it came from. Maybe it was Earth. Maybe it was someone else. But the message echoed in every system. When your sky burns and your hope fades, whisper our name and we will come. Not as saviors, not as kings, but as Deathworlders. And we will burn the darkness with fire.